What is up, everybody? It's Mason with the Next Guy Up podcast. I got Zach here. We're excited for a big packed episode today. Just him and I holding down the fort. Tinsley, he's got a service, a duty to make sure everybody gets their packages for the holidays coming up. So he is gonna
to the American public.
That's right.
He's
So
making
hopefully he'll
dreams
be
come true, saving lives out there on the streets.
I mean, with how bad drivers are, he's risking his life getting these packages to the good people. So hopefully we'll get him back next episode. But Zach, how's it going? How are you doing?
We're doing good. We had some breaking news just before we started recording. So we're going to go over that in a second in our bulletin board material. We will cover all of that. Tins, heartbreaking news today. That's the Jaguars have a new coaching hire. They're going back to the well. Urban Meyer,
I heard
back
this.
as head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So shout out to the Jaguars. Probably the right hire for them. I think he's the right guy for the job. I think he's grown a lot.
Yep.
I think he's learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He has grown as a person, and he's ready to take on the challenge again. So
big hire there.
Great work, Jaguars. I think it's right.
Yeah, I heard they're also planning on trading for a rookie quarterback, going ahead and drafting for a rookie quarterback, trading Trevor Lawrence. So it's a big deal. Yeah, some breaking news. Yeah, who would have known?
Big time. We're gonna see if Tins actually listens to this episode or not. We'll know in the morning at about 8:00 whether he's listening.
If anybody's confused, that's why. They're like, "What? This didn't show up on my ESPN."
No. So we have some stuff to cover today.
Yes,
we had. Well, we can get there in a second. We're gonna do some bulletin board material. I think we also have some news around the rest of the world. I feel like the movies have been pretty quiet lately, but there's coming out soon that have generated a lot of buzz, and we are excited about it.
Yeah, so we got definitely some pop culture that we're throwing in on the sports today. So yeah, let's go over a little bit. What do you want to talk about first?
I like that. Let's start here because I think it's kind of, like I said, the movies have been pretty quiet, but all of a sudden. We've got two big movies coming out in November that are two of the biggest movies of the year. That would be Gladiator 2, starring Pedro Pascal, Denzel Washington. A very fun cast there, and it's been highly anticipated. 84% on Rotten Tomatoes as it has started to get hit by reviewers, so that's very good. It's coming out like a week from this weekend, so that's pretty exciting stuff. The second thing that's coming out is Wicked. Obviously based on a Broadway play. We've got some stars in it, Ariana Grande being the biggest one. And this has been highly anticipated. A lot of people really love this musical. Mason and I have a special connection through this musical. Also, shout out to Matthias.
That's right. If anybody doesn't know, we were in band together. Golly, you're talking literally like 12 years ago at this point.
Yeah, it's nuts.
That's insane. We did this as a halftime show performance. So
marching band.
Throwback there. Yeah, marching band. Out on the football field performing some of the songs. So I definitely recognize them. I've never seen the play, but I got the gist of it. I think I've like seen scenes and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the songs tell the story kind of. And then you kind of piece it all together. But
okay, this is our first episode of Mason Explains. Mason.
Oh my gosh.
If you had a gun to your head and the only way you lived was to accurately summarize the plot of Wicked, what would you say?
Okay, so oh my gosh. Now you got me on the spot. Okay, so in the original Wicked, the house gets dropped on the evil witch.
You mean the Wizard of Oz?
Yeah, I'm sorry, the Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
So there's the good one, the fairy or whatever she is, which I'm assuming is like Ariana Grande, and I think they're sisters. The witch.
I think they meet each other at college.
Ah, okay. So this is like the prequel to before. Am I correct?
Correct.
This is the prequel to Wizard of Oz. Basically, how one became evil and one was good. and their land, the Yellow Brick Road, all that good stuff, and they sing. They're in like in high school and stuff, and one becomes popular, and there's a song about it.
There is. It's
And
named
then one doesn't.
Popular.
See, there you go. I paid attention. Was that it? I don't give away too much, you know.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
want to
know.
spoil
I
anything.
honestly couldn't tell you all of the plot either. That was about as much as I knew as well. I just thought it'd be funny to make you try and do that. There is some pretty legendary casting in it.
Yes.
In the original Broadway musical, it was Idina Menzel, who became famous later for her performance as Mason.
I couldn't tell you. I did shake my
she
head
was
like I knew.
she was Elsa in Frozen.
Ah, of course.
And Kristen Chenoweth, who also is pretty famous. So fun stuff. Okay.
I did see Jeff Goldblum's in the, is that how you say his last name? The Wizard.
Yeah.
In this in the Wicked, and then
He is.
Peter Dinklage is also in it.
Yeah, it's a pretty huge cast, like a fun big. They kind of did some big time casting there. So both movies have been highly anticipated from much different types of people. There's definitely a Gladiator camp that came from people who like action movies and that side, because that original Gladiator movie is beloved by a lot of people, including me. And then you have the kind of musical side of the world. And I think this one is going to appeal to a lot of like middle school aged to teenage type kids. I'm not sure it's 100% kid friendly. I need to do some research on that, but I think it will be fun. So some fun movies coming out. I'm excited to get to watch both of them, hopefully. And
so you're talking about Gladiator 2 and Wicked literally come out like in the same week or
same
couple
day.
weeks.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of the Oppenheimer, like Barbie. Way different movies, obviously, but people were trying to like mesh them together because they were like the two biggest at the same time. So
sure,
could kind of be that
I
way.
think that's true. I think it's going to be a huge weekend for the movies, so that's fun stuff. Right around, obviously, it's kind of trying to correspond with the Thanksgiving holiday. A lot of people might go watch the movies and their Thanksgiving break, stuff like that. So
I feel like summer is like the people go to the movies, drive-ins, like it's the big summer blockbuster. I feel like Christmas might have a competition though.
Christmas definitely has some big time movies
I
come
know
out
so
because
many
people have a
people.
lot of free time and are off work.
If you're just like a teenager, more what you want to do is you want
Cold.
to hang out with your family, and then you want to go on Christmas Day because all the movie theaters are open and go see a movie.
True. Or watch the NBA. There's two types of people.
There you go. Not wrong. How many Mission Impossibles are there?
How many?
Yeah.
Well, they just announced the last one for Tom Cruise.
Correct.
I think. Final.
So apparently this is a part 1, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning.
Part
and it
1.
says part 1. I didn't realize
the one coming out is that one is already out.
Oh, that one's okay. So
that
this
one
is
came
part
out
2.
a couple
So this
years
is the
ago.
final one.
2.
Okay.
This is
I
think they recorded them together though, or they filmed them together.
Okay.
So the second part, which is Tom Cruise has said is his final one.
You're right. I see it now. Okay.
Which is pretty exciting. I'm a huge Mission Impossible fan, and so this one's coming out in 2025, I believe.
May 23rd, 2025.
They dropped a new trailer, and you gotta have the feeling they're gonna pull out all the stops. It's gonna be huge and epic, and Tom Cruise may just push all of his stunts. I think he's got a death wish personally, to where he just is like, what if I just did crazy enough stunts until I just died on the set of Mission Impossible, and it would be awesome.
So here's the thing. I see these trailers. I hear about all the stunts. I get super pumped. And I'm like, man, I saw the one, like the scene where he's like hanging from a jet engine. And that's like a legitimate thing. He's like outside of a plane. I'm like, this is going to be so awesome. And then it comes around. I'm like, oh, that came out like 2 months ago. And I've never watched them really. So.
Have you watched any of them?
No, I've seen like bits and pieces.
They're very
but
good.
No.
You would actually like them. It's actually up your alley. Very action packed, like the whole thing.
Should we do a watch party live on the pod?
We probably should. I think it would be a good
I'd
time.
be down. It does not say how long it is, so everybody might have to buckle up for a 2.5 hour podcast.
Okay, a couple other things in the news.
Yes.
Also coming out in November, just for the Thanksgiving season, Amazon Prime has released a documentary trailer for the Madden football game. It's called "It's in the Game," Madden NFL. Apparently, about how it started and the creators and how John Madden became a part of the project. And I think it's going to be very interesting, actually.
Yeah.
I've heard some of that story through various like sources, and I'm excited to get to see it all put together.
For someone that this was like a big part of my childhood,
Mm-hmm.
and even I know this is silly, but I was like in high school and they did this RV bus, like it was on like ESPN
Mm-hmm.
like fifth channel or something, where it's like they did Madden tournaments
They
in a
did.
bus
I
and
used
you
to
could
watch
win
that.
like, yeah, you could watch like, or you could get like $250,000 or
Like
something.
pros.
I would even, yeah, that was like, this was before Twitch and stuff. So this was like the
Yep.
very first of watching people play video games.
And it was just like at that time, no one was making millions of dollars playing Madden in their home.
Exactly.
It was just like people who were just grinding Madden just for fun. I'm not
Yep.
even sure that there was like online play very much at that time. It
I'm
wasn't
pretty
as big
sure.
as it is now, for sure.
No, I don't think it was. So this was literally like on the same screen in a bus, and you were just like
Like
playing,
split screen.
sitting next to each. Yeah,
It's
and that's
awesome.
what it was. Legendary. They don't. They don't
That's
do like
what the
that
good
anymore.
old days right there.
Really is though.
I think that'll be fun. In other TV news, Andor season 2
Yep.
has been announced on April 22nd. This has been a highly anticipated piece of TV after the first season was such a smash success for the Star Wars. A lot of people thought it was some of the best Star Wars stuff that had come out in a long time. A lot of people are very excited, including me. We were very, very high on the show when it came out. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Do you think this series probably the third bet? You had like Mandalorian. What
Some seasons
other?
of The Mandalorian,
Yeah.
not all of them. And
And
then
then
Andor was up there, though, with the Mandalorian stuff. And then Boba Fett is pretty far down.
it's true. Wait, we're forgetting one. We're
We're
forgetting a
forgetting a couple.
series.
I didn't say all of them. I skipped a
Yeah,
couple. You have Obi-Wan, which was decent.
I would say that was high up there, probably.
Yeah. You got a couple going on right now. Skeleton Crew is just starting to come out. I think it's
Yeah,
still coming out weekly. So fun stuff there. I'm
something
pretty
to
excited
binge
about that.
watch. Okay, and then to finish up, did you have anything else?
I think that was it.
Okay, to finish up our pop culture segment here, congratulations to John Krasinski for winning the Man Sexiest award, Man Alive,
That's big
whatever award.
time.
Big time. I was seeing on Twitter people doing memes or whatever congratulating Randall Park. He was in an episode where they were pranking Dwight. If you know the joke,
Yes.
you know the joke, but pretty funny stuff. So, but yeah, that was just to finish it out. So, and I didn't talk to Zach about this before we were about to get on the pod. I want to do one more thing before we jumped into the sports segment.
Uh-huh.
So, I was in a real candy mood, me and my wife were, yesterday. And so went to Dollar General, it's a couple miles, and got a bag of like the medium sized, bigger bag of M&M's regular.
Mm-hmm.
Did not microwave these.
Oh, good call.
Peanut M&Ms.
Okay.
And then they had and I'm probably saying it wrong. They're the Gradellis, they're like the chocolate. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Ghirardellis.
Ghirardellis. Thank you. Words with Mason. They were shaped as snowmen, but they were in a little pack. And so, do you want to guess how much I spent on candy alone?
You got some Ghirardelli chocolate and some
And a bag of peanut and a bag of regular M&Ms.
$12.
$15.
Wow. Candy
So
inflation is crazy.
So everybody's wondering why is Mason talking about this? Okay, if anybody knows me, I'm the type of person. It haunts me to this day. I got one parking ticket when I was in college, literally like 7 years ago when they had the football tournament. I parked in like faculty, and it was like $25, and I was like, you know how many times I could have went out to eat for that? Like I hate wasting, and I always rationalize it on like if I wasted money on something, I'm like, you know how much money I could have spent at Taco Bell.
Definitely.
So now, speaking of Taco Bell, They have and I'm kind of glad Tinsley's on here because he's like, really, Mason, you bringing this up? You know, I can't get in the app. That's another way to see if Tinsley
Yeah,
listens to the
he's in
episode.
a feud with Taco Bell right now.
Yeah. But
Sensitive
anyways,
subject.
they have a feature on the app set that's called Name Your Price. So you can go from $5 to 25 because I actually was wishing I could go up to $100, but they don't have.
Oh
But I
my
only spent $15 on candy. So the
Okay.
name your price. So since I spent $15 on candy, I'm gonna do a name your price. How much are you looking to spend? So you type in your price. So I'm gonna type in $15, and it's gonna give you basically all of these things that you could have for
hmm
under the $15, and I can refresh it and do different things. So this is just
Okay.
like a random thing, but I could have had 2 bags of M&Ms and some Ghirardellis. Is that what I call them?
Okay. Sure.
Or I could have had a Cantina chicken burrito, a
Mm.
cheesy gordita crunch, and a stacker for $12.87. If I refresh, or for $15, I could have had a burrito supreme, nacho cheese Dorito Locos taco, a gordita supreme, and a spicy potato soft taco for another $12.36. So it's
Look,
like a
if I go to Taco Bell, I'm only doing the online meal deal. It's like
yes,
$5.99, and you get like an entree, a side, like two sides basically. They call it like an entree and like a classic plus a side
online
and a drink.
exclusive.
$6. You get two of those plus something else.
Okay,
And
on
that's
here I
like
have a
you can
build
get
your
like
own
two
cravings
Crunchwrap
box.
Supremes. You can get two 5-layer beefy burritos. You could get chips and cheese sauce plus Fiesta potatoes and two drinks for $12.
Yeah, the build your own cravings box, $6.29.
Yep, there it is.
I don't know how entertaining this is on the pod, but you choose your
It's entertaining.
specialty. You have
Trust
a
me.
crunch wrap, a cheesy gordita, a chalupa, a black bean chalupa, or a black bean crunch wrap for the vegetarians. And then your classic is a crunchy, soft 5-layer burrito, bean burrito,
Mm,
or spicy potato soft taco. And then you can
mm,
get chips and cheese or cinnamon twist or the Fiesta potatoes, and then a
bam.
drink.
It's a
Can't
good
beat that
deal.
deal.
That's a really good deal.
So I could get two of those
Two of those.
boxes and have change, or 3 bags of candy. Something to think
uh,
about.
Mason, what you said earlier, this is off topic, but one time
I'm here for it.
I was in college and I was substitute teaching.
Yeah.
While I was in classes, I had like 2 days with no classes, so I was substitute teaching because I was going to be a teacher. Substitute teaching does not pay very well.
Mm.
Fun fact, it's literally like, I mean, it's like minimum wage,
Mm.
like true minimum wage. And I mean, I was making like $60 a day for a whole day of subbing, basically, and which feels horrible. And so I remember one day I went and substitute taught, and I drove pretty far to go to the school I was going to. I came back to campus because I had to go pick something up at this building, and so I just parked outside for literally less than 5 minutes, maybe like 4 minutes, and I got a parking ticket for like $40. And I was like, and whenever you're only making like 50, $60 a day,
Oh
and then you
no.
have to spend 40 of it on a parking ticket that you got because you parked somewhere to go pick up something for one of your classes or whatever. It was like a graduation thing. Actually, it was my final year. I had to go pick up something for graduation. I parked there for literally 5 minutes, and my entire day was like a wash. I wasted a whole day with children,
Man.
just like
That's
babysitting children. That was
like
the worst.
you
I was
literally
so
worked for
mad.
free.
I was so mad.
Because by the time you spent on gas and everything too, you literally probably didn't even get paid that day.
I'm so mad.
Okay, so if you were in there for 5 minutes, that parking attendant person
Yeah,
was literally stalking
definitely.
you. You literally pulled in. They were like, "Oh, I bet he doesn't have whatever. What was it? Faculty parking? He doesn't look
Yeah,
like a teacher."
probably. It was a little bit. I mean, I kind of knew it was a risk. It was kind of a mistake, but I was like, what are the odds they're going to come by and like? I was literally
Five
just running in and
minutes.
running back out. And the odds were pretty good. They got me.
The odds were 100%.
That's
You got
good.
got.
I'm so mad about that still.
Tough break.
Um, and people always say like those UT police are for real because they will like they'll hold your diploma and stuff until everything is paid. Like they won't let you register for classes the next year.
Yeah, that's how our situation
I
was.
gotta now I did get one when I was no longer enrolled in school there at one point on campus. I did not pay that because there's like no way they're gonna like. What are they gonna do? It's like campus police. They have no authority outside of campus. Like
All of a
they have
sudden,
no control.
all of a sudden, you
Unless you
go to
want to try and get
renew
a
like
degree
your
there.
normal license, and that shows back up. I mean, they got
Yeah, my
your
future child will try and go to school there, and they'll be like, "Sorry, you got to hold plus interest."
plus interest. It's like $5,000 or
They
something.
yeah, that would be something right there. Let's don't give them any ideas. They would try that.
Oh, for sure.
We would be going elsewhere. Sorry, can't go to UT. Looks like
For
you're headed
a
to
camp and for a
City
campus that
State.
doesn't even supply enough parking spots, like either of our campuses
Oh,
that
it's
we went
bad
to,
now.
that
Yeah, it's
yeah,
worse.
I'm sure it's even worse.
This is no one wants to hear this, but Tennessee's campus parking situation is like the absolute worst. Like I think they've got like half the spots needed for all the students they have there, and so it's just they sell like way more parking passes than they actually have parking spots available. And so it's
Such a
just
scam.
constantly like a disaster. I am so thankful I am not having to go to that campus during like a school day because it's apparently just a mess. I know some people who do, and they just say it's the worst.
Yeah, you feel like a freaking creeper because you're having to like follow somebody walking to their car, but you got to do what
Yeah,
you got to find a parking spot.
there's
So
just
if
nothing more
someone's
frustrating than that, and like
or
having to
someone
do
cutting
that
in
kind of
front of
mess.
you, shoo, I've
Yeah,
had that happen.
like there's nothing more frustrating than going home to like where you live on campus and not being able to park at your home. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Walk
That's
like
a
a
good
half
point.
mile to my house or to where I'm living. Okay, that's way off topic. All right, here we go.
I'm here for it.
We have some bulletin
Yes,
board material today.
we do. I'm excited to hear this.
Mason, did you
Zach's
have
been on
any, or
a
is this just me?
you got it, but I'll fuel the flames here. Zach's been on a little bit of a tangent. I don't know if this has anything to do with the text messages.
Mm-hmm.
He's been on a little bit of a tangent about UT here and has some theories and has some feelings feeling away. But anyways, I didn't mean to undercut you there. I was just
Okay,
I was
that's
tossing up the
fine.
lob.
So here's the situation.
Yep.
Tennessee football.
Oh, is that what we're talking about? I'm just kidding.
This is what we're talking about for here. Um, Obviously, a huge game this weekend. We're going to break some of the actual nuts and bolts of the game down here in a second. But Tennessee's got a big game against Georgia.
Yep.
The playoff rankings were released yesterday,
Mm.
and boy, are they controversial a little bit or a lot of it. These playoff rankings are the official. Like this is what the committee is using to make these decisions. And boy, are some of them just pretty wild. So we're gonna get into a little bit of it. Let me give you. I'm gonna give you the unbiased version, and then we're gonna go into the very biased version of this talk.
Okay.
We're gonna do like the professional me talking about it, and then we're gonna do the here's how I really feel about it. So in this top 25 they released, there are 4 Big Ten teams in the top 5 teams in the nation. Your top 5 round out to Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, and Indiana. After that, let's just round out the top 12. You've got BYU, Tennessee, Notre Dame, Miami, Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia. Notably, 3 SEC teams right there at the bottom of the list. On the current top 12, there are 5 SEC teams in the top 12, plus Notre Dame, plus 4 Big Ten teams, plus BYU. Notably, this is not going to last because Boise State is 13. They are likely going to get the G5 spot. But then Miami and BYU are accounted for. So really, if the season ended today, Georgia would get bumped out of the playoffs. There'd be 4 SEC, 4 Big Ten, Notre Dame, and then ACC, Big 12. This is what we've been predicting all season. This is no surprises there. What are some surprises? This is from last week to this week. Indiana and BYU both jumped Tennessee at number 7.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, before I get there, let's talk about some of the matchups then. If we were putting our bracket together, It's a pretty similar situation to last week. We would have Boise State, Ohio State as the 5-12, Notre Dame, Tennessee as the 8-9, Penn State, Ole Miss as the 6-11, and Indiana, Bama as the 7-10. Notably, if you're looking at this schedule, you're seeing a Ohio State team who gets to play as a 5 seed, who gets to play Boise State in the first round, and then a Miami team that's looks very beatable in the second round. I think also notably, you see an Ole Miss team that has been surging as of late, who would get Penn State in the first round and then BYU in the second round. I think both of those paths are honestly pretty nice comparative to Notre Dame, Tennessee having to go to Oregon, or Bama, Indiana having to play Texas.
Good Texas, yeah.
So that's kind of what we're looking at here. I would say the exact same thing I said last week. I think it's setting up to where clearly the committee has in their brain that whoever loses the SEC championship will be whoever loses the SEC championship and loses the Big Ten championship will be 5 and 6, and then the other at-larges will fill in the rest of the teams. They're leaving Boise State there at the very bottom at like the last 12 seed. And so that's where we're at. So let's do now the bulletin board material conversation. This is where it's going to get messy here, folks. The committee chair. So the person in charge of making all of these decisions about the college playoff rankings, he is the athletic director at Michigan. Who let this happen? Can anyone tell me why this guy is the Michigan athletic director is allowed to make the most important decisions in the college football this year?
How is this allowed? How does nobody even know about this? This is news to me.
His name is Ward Manuel. He was asked, why did Indiana and BYU move up in the rankings, but Tennessee didn't? Fair question. A couple of top teams lost. That would be Miami and Georgia. They moved down. Why didn't Tennessee move at all? They got jumped. He said, and I quote, Indiana and BYU had big wins Saturday. Maybe you're like, oh, that's interesting. Indiana did have a big win over a Michigan team. Remember Michigan, who I just mentioned a second ago? This Michigan team, you might think, oh, they won a national championship last year. That Michigan team? Yes. Mason, do you know what Michigan's record is this year?
What's their record?
5-4.
5-4. Okay.
Does that sound like
a big win? Is that
they
a
won
big win?
20-15 by 5 points. They almost lost it. That's an Indiana team who has a 100 plus. They're ranked like 100th almost exactly in strength of schedule so far. That was their biggest win of the season by a wide margin against the Michigan team that, I think realistically is getting beat by like South Carolina. Next up, BYU. Even more interesting. Let's look at this BYU team, Mason. You know what BYU's rank, or you know what BYU's record is?
Do not.
They're 9-0, undefeated.
Okay.
Wow. Great job, BYU.
Yeah.
You're playing. That's very good. Do you know the only other team, Mason, in college football or in the Power 4 conferences who have a greater than 100th ranked strength of schedule?
Who is it?
Indiana's the first one. The second one, Utah. Do you know what Utah's record is?
What is Utah's?
4-5.
Didn't they lose a lot? Yeah.
5 games in a row. They've lost 5 games in a row, and they have the 103rd hardest schedule in the nation.
You showed me that.
This Indiana team, or this BYU team, who this Ward Manuel character said was a big win for the BYU team, beat a Utah team that had lost 5 games in a row.
Mm.
And so here we are.
Bob.
They said that Nico's injury was not a factor, but they said, the offense doesn't look very good. Sorry, guys. We're going to leave you where you're at. Indiana, BYU, big wins. Jumping them.
What's Tennessee's strength of schedule?
It's like 35th, I think.
Okay.
It's not great, but it'll be better.
But it's not 100 and something. Yeah.
Yeah. This Georgia game will obviously change that. So, let's do one more fun experiment here, Mason.
Okay.
BYU has another huge matchup this weekend against a powerhouse in the Big 12. I'm of course talking about your Kansas
Kansas.
Jayhawks. This is not basketball. This is a 3-6 Kansas team, folks. 3-6 playing a Big 12 schedule.
Wait a
If
minute.
you had to think in your brain and say, I wonder what the spread is. The game is at BYU against Kansas.
It's got to be like 10 or 10 plus, right? They're the
This
third
spread
ranked.
should be like 20.5. The
Yeah.
spread is 2.5 points for BYU.
What?
Listen, people. This is a team that is on track to get a first round bye in the college football playoffs if they win the Big 12. They are 2.5 point favorites over a 3-6 football team in the Big 12 at home. I don't understand what we're doing here. That's the first part of bulletin board material. Second piece of bulletin board material today is regarding one Nico Iamaleava and his injury status. First of all, the national media has had a field day with this. They know they are preying on Tennessee Volunteers' emotional situations. They know how big this game is. And boy, has every single news outlet just started making up stuff. Chris Felica famously made a statement something like, he has a bad concussion. There's no way he's playing. Everyone picked it up. Meanwhile, he's actively practicing with the team today. Do those two things make any sense? Somebody's lying to somebody.
Yep.
Either someone's created some like AI footage of Nico practicing today, or Chris Felica just wanted to generate some engagement with Tennessee Volunteer fans. I don't know which is which, but I'm going to let you just decide that one. Guys, this is a huge game for Tennessee, obviously. But Tennessee has been just the most I'm saying this with the most bias. This was the biased part of my segment. They've been the most disrespected team in the nation so far this college football playoff season. The playoff committee clearly is wanting to shield Indiana whenever they do lose to Ohio State here in a couple weeks. Inevitably, because they're not very good. They're going to lose. And the college football playoff really wants Indiana to be in the playoff for some reason. I don't even know why. They're not even a huge market. I think they're scared of putting 5 SEC teams in, and they really want to be able to put a 4th Big Ten team in. Don't ask me why. I don't know any reality where Indiana generates more engagement, more views than Tennessee does in a playoff situation. I don't know why anyone would even care to watch a playoff game in Bloomington, Indiana in the snow. No one wants that. I don't know why we're doing this, but it's happening. Tennessee is getting set up to be punked by the college football playoff committee. And if they lose to Georgia this week, they will be outside looking in and need a miracle loss by another team in order to jump up. And I'm saying a miracle because the rest of the schedules of the playoff teams are very, very soft. The Indiana Ohio State game would be the only saving grace.
Yeah.
If Indiana gets blown out, what would happen to their playoff potential? I don't know.
Well, we have a couple options. First of all, real quick, you said disrespect to Tennessee, not just in the NCAA, but the NCAA football game. You remember that when we were talking? We didn't even get ranked on like our fan base or
it's a fact.
Any of the stats across NCAA. Real quick, what happens if Texas? And I know this is a big what if. I want to give you some what if scenarios real quick, and then if you had anything else,
I've thought
you know how we
talk.
but also real quick, if you know how we talked about a punishment would be doing a hour podcast by yourself. I feel like you could actually almost pulled that off. You were doing really well, just like engaging. I've heard a couple podcasts where one person's by themselves, and I feel like it's tough, but you were doing it. Okay.
Only if it's Texas, about Tennessee getting screwed over by the national media.
It's true. You could just do a whole podcast on that. So Texas's remaining schedule, Arkansas, Kentucky, but at the very end, they have a 15th ranked Texas A&M.
They do
at Texas A&M 7-2. What happens if they lose that game Because do you want to guess how many wins Texas will have against a 25 seed for their season?
0. Bob.
Wait a minute. At the time, wait, is this counting at the time or? So I saw a stat that they
I
would
think
have
it's overall.
0.
Yeah, it's 0.
But at the time, I think Michigan was 10th ranked when they were
Yeah,
played
but
Michigan.
they're garbage now.
But they're garbage now. So
NC
I
State
think,
was also ranked when we played them, and Oklahoma.
but I think it's talking about at the like right
Currently
now how
ranked
many
teams. Correct.
currently ranked. It would be 0.
Definitely. Their best win is Vanderbilt.
Now it would be helpful if Texas A&M wins out, and then Texas actually lose to them. I don't know how many Texas fans are listening.
Well, see,
I don't
here's the
know.
problem with that, Mason. I hear you.
Yeah,
The problem is if Texas A&M beats Texas, then Texas A&M jumps up into a slot.
and kicks us out.
If Tennessee loses this week,
But how about so who'd play in the SEC tournament on each?
if Texas loses,
Yeah,
it would be A&M, Bama, I think.
So maybe we don't need that.
Either way, one of those teams is kind of going to get eliminated, I believe.
Well, Texas A&M is playing New Mexico State, which only has 2 wins, and then Auburn, which only has 3. So maybe we don't
all
want
of
this.
the top. Bama's schedule is pretty soft here going down the stretch as well. After this week, Tennessee has UTEP and Vanderbilt. Pretty much every SEC team is going to have to take a huge upset. The only interesting game there is Texas A&M. I think no matter who wins that one team that might be a play into the SEC championship, honestly. One team is going to SEC championship, one team is eliminated almost. So that will be a big game for sure. Okay, for those 2 teams. I'm not sure how much it impacts Tennessee, unfortunately.
My next scenario is real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame loses to Army on the 23rd.
That would be big. See, then the question is, does Army deserve a spot in the playoffs?
I think so. You see all of these as them kicking Tennessee out.
I don't think Army. I think if Notre Dame lost to Army, I think Notre Dame would be like 21-point favorites over Army. But I think if Army pulled it off, I think Notre Dame would get kicked out and Tennessee would jump up in that situation if Tennessee loses to Georgia.
Also, Army, Navy, Air Force. Am I missing any others that don't do NIL and don't do and the fact that if Army actually got in, I saw a stat or an article where they're having military commitment go to that school, so it's like they don't do NIL.
Yeah,
and one of them actually gets into the tournament. I kind of want to root for it, but obviously, if that means Tennessee's not getting in, that's a tough thing to root for.
That's a pretty big long shot that they're going to beat Notre Dame. If they do, I still think the committee would very much so hesitate to put them up in a spot where they would actually have a chance of making it.
Dang it!
I wish because of the rest of their schedule.
Yeah,
they would have an argument at that point, but I think it would be. I don't know.
I wish that spread was out. The ESPN matchup predictor, which doesn't really mean anything, is giving Notre Dame an 88.6% chance of winning.
Checks out. Yeah.
Listen, anything can happen. We didn't think they were going to lose to NIU, so
the Texas A&M game is the most interesting one. Arkansas could cause some chaos this week if they wanted to against Texas. That's the other semi-interesting matchup. The second best matchup in the SEC this week is South Carolina LSU, but it's too bad both those teams are essentially eliminated from playoff contention. South Carolina, after I named them the highest riser last week, they've been getting a lot of publicity this week. They are all of a sudden people are looking at their schedule and be like, man, they lost to 3 really good teams. There is a highly unlikely scenario where some big teams lose to some bad teams and South Carolina kind of sneaks up into a spot. I think at this point, you're talking about like a 5% chance that happens. But I think there is an opportunity where they would be the first 3-loss team to go in, I think, for sure. But there's a lot of 2-loss teams out there, but I think they would be the first 3-loss team. So it's pretty interesting.
Man, I was looking at Ole Miss schedule. They don't play another game until the 23rd.
They're off this week.
Yeah, they're off this week. And it's Florida and then Mississippi State the 29th.
And that's the Florida game. That Florida game will be pretty interesting. That's one that could jack some things up. If Ole Miss gets beat, that would certainly help open up a spot.
Well,
We're big Florida fans in that one for sure.
Did you hear that, everybody? Zach's a Florida fan.
I am in that situation, without a doubt. Okay. Well, do we want to go ahead and just do the couple? It's kind of a weird week in college, honestly.
Yeah.
Some of the biggest games are there's like one or two pretty big games, and the rest are just kind of meh. As far as competitive games go.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee, Georgia, obviously at the top of the list. Georgia is 10-point favorites at home.
College game day is going to be there
expecting
too.
this line to jump around, but it's not really moving from the 9.5, 10 spot.
Do you take the over?
48.5. Here's the thing about Tennessee. They have not given up over 18 points the entire season so far to anyone. Now, is Georgia even the best offense Tennessee's faced? I don't know.
They didn't
Carson Beck is not very
look
good.
At last week.
Not a lot of talent in the wide receiver room. They are like the 80th best rushing team in the nation. Like they are not very good on offense right now. Could that flip all of a sudden in a big game? Sure. Could Tennessee's offense suddenly wake up? We've been saying it for 5 weeks in a row. Yes, Tennessee's offense could decide that they're going to hit the big plays. They're not going to shoot themselves in the foot. They're not going to turn it over in the red zone. They're going to finish drives. They're not going to miss field goals. And all of a sudden, Tennessee could put up 40 points. Very interesting game that's going to be happening here. Now,
let me ask you a question.
Did Tennessee fall on their face with Gaston Moore at quarterback? Could he throw 3 picks? And could we get blown out? Definitely. Fully on the table. I have no idea what's going to happen.
I'm curious to see if that line will move in our favor once Nico's confirmed. If he does become confirmed as the starter, if that moves towards us, we have a minor. Yeah,
that was our news that we were going to break.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Right when we started the podcast, we realized the news that I'd been checking Twitter all night that Nico is listed as questionable along with Dante Thornton. This is not a huge surprise. Heupel, as well as most big time coaches, are not very forthcoming with their injury situations, which is it makes sense. You don't want to give an advantage to the other team by showing your hand too early. If he made a decision either way, I would have been shocked because then that would give Georgia an extra couple of days to know exactly who they're going to be facing at quarterback. It works in the favor to kind of keep that close to the vest until the last minute. So I don't know that actually tells us anything. It just tells us, I think it's been clear that he's been in a concussion protocol. I think that is pretty much confirmed at this point. He got some kind of head injury, and he is in some stages of concussion protocol. The question is how much he's been practicing this week, participating, which I think indicates it at least is not a severe concussion. We know there's lots of hoops to jump through to get to actually playing after concussion. And so I think it really seems like they're monitoring day to day. They're letting him get some more and more work in as the week goes on, which is positive. How will he do in an environment in Athens that I think will be very intense, very loud, obviously. He's going to get hit. How is his concussion, however mild it is, going to react to hearing screaming fans in his face for 3 or 4 hours on Saturday night? I don't know. That's enough to give a regular person a headache, much less a person who just suffered a concussion the week before. And so I think there's a lot of questions there. But I think either way, it is no secret to anyone that our Tennessee's offense runs through Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson looked dominant again last week. I think worst case scenario, you let Gaston Moore throw some shots to the flats, and you let Dylan Sampson cook, and you put the team on his back, and you say, we go as far as Dylan Sampson goes. If Dylan Sampson can go and put up 150 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, we could very well win it just on his back if our defense shows up. So that's my official prediction is I have no idea what's going to happen. For my heart, I'm going to predict Tennessee wins 20-17 in a defensive battle. Maybe a pick six.
Love it.
Maybe something wild. The defense is going to have to win this game, though. If Nico doesn't play, I'm not. It would take a miracle for the offense to look good. I think the offense has looked very bad for many weeks with Nico and Dante Thornton. I'm expecting if we win, it's going to be because our defense just shut Carson Beck down, forced a couple of interceptions, made him make some mistakes, and that's where we made the breaks. So,
do you really feel like the run game has been shut down that much? I know you only turn like one-dimensional, but I feel like Dylan Sampson's still been able to be able to do what he wants, like score and just run all over these defenses.
Yeah, the problem is if you have Gaston Moore and he doesn't look very good and it's clear that they don't have a lot of faith in him, they can just stack the box up. All of a sudden, there's 6 guys in the box or 7 guys in the box, and Gaston Moore has to start making some decisions, and I think that's where the game goes bad for Tennessee. Now, if Nico's out there, it opens up the whole field. Nico can run, and then your team becomes much more dynamic. So, as much as you hate to say it, a lot of our offense runs through Dylan Sampson, but Nico being in the game helps that become much easier, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I was looking at the concussion protocol for college athletes. All student athletes must undergo baseline testing before participating in any athletic activity. This includes medical history, a baseline assessment symptom scale, and a computerized neuro test. Return to play. The student athlete can only return to play when a concussion is no longer suspected. So if he's like in practice, I feel like there is no concussion suspected.
That's a question. Yeah, I mean, whether he's actually participating or not, like if he's just like doing walkthroughs, I think that's a different level than like full contact kind of practice. So
yeah,
or if he's on the sideline taking notes, whatever. I think you can do that. It's different than like full participation.
Yeah.
So I've heard that yesterday was very limited, but today he did more.
There you go.
Who's giving this information? I don't know, because Heupel famously shuts down his practices and doesn't let any media in. So I'm not sure who's providing this information to anyone, but that's what it's worth. That's what I've heard. Okay.
You missed a big game that we were going to talk about. The big Utah, and they're playing Colorado.
It is a big game.
That really tough Utah team we were talking about earlier. Sorry, go ahead.
Tough Utah team. Colorado's an 11.5-point favorite there. In Boulder, this Colorado team all of a sudden is on a trajectory towards the college football playoff.
Wild.
A trajectory to playing a BYU team in the Big 12 championship that is mostly untested. I will say they have an SMU win that looks better and better with every week. SMU looks pretty good, but a Utah team that is 4-5 right now, fighting for a bowl game, and a Colorado team who is 7-2, and all of a sudden is looking very frisky for the playoff hunt. I think Colorado is going to win this game because I think they're much better than Utah. And I think Colorado is going to make the Big 12 game in what will be a very, very interesting Big 12 championship matchup. Winner gets a first-round bye, which is nuts. I think that's where we're headed. So, fun game there. Another fun game in the ACC that I'm just going to briefly mention. Clemson at Pitt. Both of these teams are 7-2. We're going to call this an official playoff elimination game, because the loser basically has a 0% chance of making the ACC championship. They're not likely anyways, with SMU and Miami kind of being the one-loss teams. But one of them will still be in the hunt, and one of them is going home for good. Clemson has still have a pretty tough schedule. They're going to Pitt, where they're 10-point favorites. And then they still have to play South Carolina. So they still have a tough schedule ahead.
Does the system play come into... Is the system dead? I don't remember.
System has been not very weird this year. It's not been as effective, I would say.
Yeah.
It has been at some games. In some games, it's not mattered very much. Clemson's a -10 right here. I'm not sure Pitt is actually a very put together football team. I think they had a very soft schedule, which made their record look very good. I think Clemson rolls in that game. But
There you go.
Notre Dame plays a very challenging game against Virginia. They're 23-point favorites. Shout out to Notre Dame, always scheduling the hard teams. The only other a low-key pretty fun game we mentioned earlier is going to be LSU at Florida. This game is a very tight point spread because this LSU team is coming off a big loss to Alabama, eliminated from playoffs. This Florida team is fighting for a bowl game. They've got Florida State at the end of the season, and then they need one other win to get a bowl game. Billy Napier obviously already retained. DJ Lagway is questionable, just like Nico is. That will be a very interesting one. Very interesting one.
Yeah,
Texas,
4-point
Arkansas.
spread.
If you wanted to upset spot in the SEC this week, I think Texas, Arkansas is a potential for a disaster for Texas there. Tennessee fans know all too well what happens if you go to Arkansas. Tough place to play. Taylor Green's supposed to be back to full health. You want to see a fun upset spot? That's the one to
That'd
look
be
to,
awesome.
I think. That would really
13.5-point
shake
spread.
some stuff up in the SEC for sure. But that would be a fun one. Okay, Mason. Do you have any? You have any NFL news? You got?
Yes,
from
I
your
do
world?
actually. Yeah, in my little world here. Real quick. So, you remember that one time, like all off season, when I was against the Justin Fields? I felt like they did him dirty. They didn't give him weapons, and then they decided to trade him to the Steelers, and then they draft Caleb Williams. They get all sorts of weapons around Caleb Williams.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really seem like Justin Fields was ever the problem in Chicago. Bears last 8 games with healthy Justin Fields. 5-3 record, 24.5 points per game. Bears first 9 games with Caleb Williams, 4-5 record, 19.4 points a game. If you watched last week, Caleb Williams, people were even talking about benching. The Bears fired one of their coordinators, offensive coordinator. So it's just kind of been,
Yeah.
And there were so many high hopes for the Bears.
I've heard of benching Caleb Williams just to protect him behind the offensive line. That's very bad.
It's very bad. But then I was also seeing plays, like I was watching ESPN, and they were like, he's holding it way too long. Like he wasn't even looking downfield. He was kind of already just like scrambling, and he just ran into one of his offensive linemen. And so, I mean, I get it. I couldn't imagine.
You get hit so many
position.
times, and it just becomes like you just can't be patient in the pocket because you're so scared of just getting hit.
For sure. I couldn't imagine. But I just felt, I was like, Justin Fields wasn't the problem. And I get it. He's already benched for Russell Wilson and the Steelers, and I'm over here sweating out under 2,000 yards on Russell Wilson. But
what's the number right now?
I think I texted I think it's like in the 700s.
It's 2,000?
Yeah, under 2,000.
Is he on pace or no?
Let me look. I don't even know.
It's like 211 per week or something is what we calculated to.
Let me look real quick. I'll look it up in a minute. So my second thing was speaking of the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
They have not played a divisional game yet, which is wild to me. Because what week are we in the NFL right now? All of a sudden my ESPN app is
7 or 8.
Or further than that.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, let me look.
9.
We are week 11.
Oh my. Week 11? Really?
Week 11. Yeah. Week 11, and the Steelers haven't played a divisional game yet. So, speaking of, they play one this week against the Ravens. They are a 3-point underdog to the Ravens. Ravens are favored by 3 points. Real quick, Lamar Jackson has struggled greatly against in his career against the Steelers. He has a 1-3 record, total touchdowns 4, interceptions 7, 5 fumbles, completion percentage 59.1. Been sacked 20 times. So if you're kind of looking for an upset there, but I feel very, if everybody's like, oh man, the Steelers, they got a 7-2 record. These divisional games, for anybody that knows, those are the ones that you feel like you can win, and they're hard to come by.
It's a big
Those wins
rivalry.
are harder. Yeah, it's a big deal. So let me look at where Russell Wilson, now that I got that game pulled up to preview, where he's at on his stats.
Mason,
He
how do you feel
has
about okay, sorry. I'll say
no,
after this.
you're good. 737 passing yards.
In 4 games?
Yeah, ESPN is projecting him. I don't know if this is 1,300.
For the
ESPN
season?
has projected. Yeah, for the season. So we're looking great.
That's low.
That doesn't seem right. Also, we're in week 11, so have they had their bye yet? I can also kind of look at this while we're. This is great pod. Come up with this on the fly like this.
I saw a post that said Dan Lanning is being looked at for some NFL positions. Famously passed up the Alabama job. Do you think he's holding out for the NFL? What do you think? You think he's going to go the Harbaugh route and try and win a natty and then go?
My issue is how many college head coaches actually pan out. Would you say Pete Carroll was one of the more successful ones?
Sure.
Harbaugh, yeah, like you said. I'm curious. I don't know.
Nick Saban?
I'd be up for it, huh?
Nick Saban? Just kidding.
I think Nick Saban's gonna be on doing his.
But I feel like here's the thing though: is modern college football is much closer to the NFL than college football of old. College football of old was about like recruiting once, and then you have your team. You have guys for 3 or 4 years. Modern college football is you got to keep guys happy. You've got to build a new roster every season.
Mm-hmm.
You got to trade people, like in quotes, which is like the transfer portal is people going in and out. You got to manage lots of monies, move things around, manage personnel. I think that's the stuff that college coaches traditionally have had a hard time translating to the NFL. Where now I think college coaches are much closer to NFL coaches in that way. I could be wrong about that, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more and more of the top college guys moving to the NFL. In the same vein, though, college coaches are making similar amounts of money in a lot of situations to NFL coaches. So it's like, what is the point in going? I don't know. That's also a question, I guess.
Maybe one of these episodes we could break down each. All I know is Mike McDonald didn't. I saw a stat where he didn't coach or play football in college. So he's one of the outliers. But anyways. No, that was my I wanted to preview and just make it short, sweet, and to the point. If we're looking at some standings, I did have one last thing. It was about, I think the last time the Bills were 8-2, they went to the Super Bowl. Something to think about. But speaking of the Bills, they're at the top of the. So if we're looking at a way early college, or I'm sorry, I'm thinking college still, way early playoff projection. We have Kansas City, obviously, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Houston, Baltimore, Chargers, and Denver.
It's pretty fun. Denver. That's wild.
Looking a little. Indianapolis Colts on the outside looking in.
Ugh. Anthony Richardson.
He's back. He's back, baby. Don't call it a comeback.
He's got to get the he's back boost.
I really do think that you're on the coaching seat if you mess this up, because the rest of your division is hot garbage. Terrible. And even the Houston Texans are out here losing to a five pick.
Yeah.
Jared Goff.
You get 4 games against the Titans and Jags.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like right for the picking. You win those 4 games and all of a sudden you're right in the mix.
And it's like, come on, you couldn't even win. You couldn't even get into the playoffs with this type of. This is a historically bad division, and the Colts, they're gonna not make it. What a joke.
I think they just need to keep going back and forth every week between Anthony Richardson and
Just and the team doesn't know, so they're just like back and forth.
well, we
What
we
they
know
need,
that you get a boost if you have a new quarterback in that week. And so what if they just go back and forth? Joe Flacco, Anthony Richardson every week, and then it's
during
like,
the
oh,
game,
it's a bump.
what if it's like a preseason where each drive they put in a different quarterback?
Some colleges have tried mess like that before, like every other one.
I
Boy,
feel like
that's
it
what
throws
a
off the
mess.
offense more
Yeah,
than it does
what a
the
mess that
defense.
is. Always, it never works. Or you have one quarterback that only like comes in for running plays, like to run the ball,
Yeah.
and
But
then
everybody knows it. The whole
the
stadium
defenses
knows it.
know if you see him, he's gonna run it. It's like they obviously don't trust him to throw the ball. I don't know what it happens sometimes though.
The only one that I can think of that doesn't in the NFL is Taysom Hill, which is like a tight end. He's returned kickoffs. He's for
Like
the
a special
Saints
set.
quarterback. Yeah, but he'll also like within the 5 yard line, he'll do a direct snap and just bulldoze 3 players into the end zone. So
I
that
mean, if it
happens.
works, it works.
Yeah.
I
So
don't.
there
I
you
want to see
go.
one of those guys just like chuck it one day. Bring him in.
Yeah.
Just let him just throw it up.
Yeah.
Be awesome.
Also, to close out the episode here,
Mm-hmm.
I thought of that. I thought of this like 3 o'clock in the morning
Okay.
yesterday. I woke up and I was like, "Did we decide on our next guy up? Because we had nominees, but did we make the decision on who the next guy up award was?"
I don't think so. I was also thinking about that the other day.
I literally woke up in the middle of the night thinking about it.
Who were all of our people? I
That's a
had
great
Gaston
question.
Moore
Yes.
for getting 3 defensive pass interferences called.
Mine was the Vikings defensive player that picked off Mac Jones,
Mm.
and then he did the celebration.
Oh, I finally saw that whole video from the
He
Olympics.
did the
Ray
break
gun.
dancer. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he did
that was pretty
the
awesome
break
because
dance.
I saw
Yeah,
like a side by side and it was like perfect.
it was like he literally like
It's
did the
awesome.
exact move to a
Memorized it.
T. Yeah,
I like
tough
that. I
break.
think
I don't remember Tinsley's.
let's just say we pick Ray gun impersonator.
There you go.
I
All
don't even know
right,
what
it's
his
been
name is.
decided.
Doesn't
Sorry,
even matter.
Tins. All right,
Rest in peace, Ray gun.
we'll wrap it up there. Congrats to that player. I don't even have his name, but Vikings Bynum, I think was his last name.
Shout out.
Congrats to that guy. But thank you everybody for listening to this week's episode. We appreciate you all tuning in each and every week.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely hunker down for a huge weekend, and we got some NBA, we got some college basketball. Reach out if you want to hear a little more of our takes of any of the other sports. I'm sure we'll sprinkle those in. But thank you, everybody, and you guys have a great weekend. Catch you next time.